Welcome to Guided by Third Wheel, the podcast. My name is Amber Ireland, and I'm here with my co-host, Jill Bucaro. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Guided by Third Wheel. Today, Amber and I thought we would do a little leadership chat. Definitely a topic we've touched on before here on the podcast, but we wanted to talk specifically about our experiences, the things that we've learned when it comes to leading in times of chaos,
Right.
or in navigating big changes, or when hard decisions have to be made. Times feel a little chaotic, right? We've talked about that on here. We both work in the nonprofit treatment government sector, and things have been really chaotic in terms of funding and regulation all year. And I know that isn't just specific to the areas that we work in. So I imagine that there are many people out here who are trying to lead despite all of the unknowns, despite the changes, the way we consume media and news now has people feeling very heightened all the time. Something I've definitely noticed in my work and in other spaces where I lead, that people are just really heightened right now.
Right.
And how do we as leaders manage that? How do we help guide our teams and the people we mentor through some of these really hard and unknowing kind of times? Definitely not easy. Definitely requires work that we ourselves have to do to be able to show up the way that we need to for the people around us. So Amber, what are your thoughts? When I say leading in chaos, what pops into your brain as must-dos?
I want to take a step back to say leading in chaos for me that I've noticed over my career happens in two different ways. Sometimes you have chaos within your team and your organization that is happening because more leadership is needed. Right? And there is a way for you to apply different leadership skills, apply different organizational structures to remedy that chaos. And then there is the chaos that you have no control over and is raining down from you externally.
So maybe the first thing to do is to ask yourself, when things feel chaotic, is this something that could be managed by me as the leader? Or is this something that I have to continue to manage in spite of?
Right.
Okay.
Because our first go-to always when there is chaos, regardless if we do have control of it or we don't have control of it, is to try to control it.
Sure.
Right? That's our go-to. And as leaders, if we don't recognize what type of chaos we're dealing with, we will burn ourselves out trying to control something that is uncontrollable.
Yes.
And in those situations, when we're dealing with chaos like what you're talking about, where it is governmental, it is regulations coming down, it is funding problems, that we have a bit of control where we can try to look at things differently, remanage. But when we get to that place where there is nothing that I can do in the moment to fix this, right? At that point, we have to provide support. We have to hold the space for our staff and ourselves to understand that we can do the best that we can do right now. Nobody is asking for perfection at this point in this system of chaos, and being able to hold that space, because if you as a leader are trying to control and make everything work and it's not working because it can't, your staff are going to feel like they should be controlling everything and making it work, and they're going to blame themselves for that not happening. And that's just not the case. And then when everybody is spinning out and burning out, you're going to have that internal chaos.
Yes. I do think that is such a good, and you're so good at this, Amber. Like, I'm always, let's start on step 10. And you're like, no, let's start on step 1, because I do think that there has to be some introspection to determine, is this something that can be quote unquote fixed or attended to or mitigated? Because there are so many of us, me being one of us, that we are just compulsive fixers. I see somebody who's upset. I see somebody with a problem. I hear somebody express a need. And without 1 ounce of critical thought, my whole body springs into action. I need to fix this. I need to attend to this, right? And I look back at my leadership journey. Every time somebody expressed a frustration or something like that, I wanted to, with every fiber of my being, to make that better for them. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
But sometimes it stole my focus. It took time that could have been better attended somewhere else. And I think that half the time they didn't even want me to fix it. They just wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
And that's where another one of my Jillisms that I always say is our job is not to be the hero in everybody else's story. A lot of times we're here to be a support in somebody else's story. We're here to be a safe space in somebody else's story, but it's never our job to emerge triumphant for someone else.
In those times, you have to remind the other person, as you're holding the space, that they are the hero in their own story.
Yes.
Like, this is going to be okay. It feels terrible right now, but it's going to be fine. You're going to make it through this.
Yes.
I'm here to hold the space for you. Let me know how I can support you. I know I can't fix this.
Right.
You can't fix this problem, but that problem is not who you are. You get to move forward in a different way. And being able to talk to people the same way that we do with clients. We reframe. Okay? We're not going to bypass a feeling. We're not going to be like, oh, don't grieve that. Let's keep it moving, right? You hold the space and then you say, what opportunity is here now?
Yes.
That wasn't here before. Now that we have this information that none of us wanted, to ever have to deal with or face, what opportunity do we have?
Yeah.
Right?
And what does that look like for you?
Right. And maybe that is an opportunity as a team you can all get behind. Or maybe those are individual opportunities that people need and they have to find it for themselves. Right?
Exactly.
You just hold the space and say, where's your opportunity here? And some people, they're going to take that and they're going to really look at it. And some people aren't. Some people aren't going to be ready to do that. And we have to be okay with that too.
Exactly. Because it's even that second step, you're going to have to hold back that fixing and managing compulsion too, right?
Right.
We have to hold space for it. And then we have to let people decide how they're going to move forward. It's not up to us to create a little case plan for everybody on how they're going to move forward there. And that brushes up against one of the things I was thinking about in leading through times of chaos or really hard times. It's being as truthful as we can be. For a long time, what my natural inclination is to hold all of the hard stuff so other people don't have to. And I think sometimes I do it under this delusion that maybe I'll be able to fix it before anybody would ever have to know. And sometimes as a leader that does happen, right? Hold something because you're like, I think perhaps this could be resolved before anybody would have to know or there would have to be stress about it. But again, I think you have to look at it, you have to examine it, like we talked about at the beginning, and say, if the answer is, this is something that's going to come out. This is bad news. There is no way to head this off. This cannot be resolved. The sooner we are truthful with people about what's going on, the better, right? Because that is respectful to the people around you. They deserve to know what is going on in their world. They deserve to see all the cards, and to your point, make their own decisions about that. And the more information they have, the better decisions they can make for themselves. So that's something that I think I learned the hard way a couple times. It is better to be truthful, even if it feels hard. Delivering bad news sucks, right? But it is kinder and more respectful to the people on your team to really be honest. Instead of trying to hold all that yourself.
As a leader, you have to be discerning about that, because every single problem that comes along at your leadership level, you're not going to share all of those things with the people that you are leading, because there are times where I can navigate this, and if I go tell everybody that this is happening, now you're worrying about something that you don't have any control over, but I do have control over. But I think when we get to the place where this is no longer controllable,
we have lost this major grant.
We know that there is a finalized problem that is not going to be solved. That's when you decide, okay, now everybody comes into the fold at whatever level of knowledge they need to make their next best choice, Because as leaders, depending on what level of leadership you're in, you may have information that you never can share with anyone. When you're in a business, you have attorneys, you have legal things, and it's like you can say X, Y, and Z, right? And you have to abide by that, but also taking in that human factor to say, when we get to this point that there is no going back, that's when we step in and say, here is the problem, and this is what we're facing right now.
I've had moments where things are going awry, and I'm at a point, like you said, where one, one, perhaps it could be fixed or mitigated, right? We don't know for sure yet.
Right.
Two, maybe there's things that I can't say, but I've had people that work for me or colleagues of mine that have looked at me dead in my eyes and been like, should I be looking for another job, right? Should I be looking for something else? And there have been times where I have been more able to deliver the bad news and be like, yeah, if I were you, I might just explore what my options are, right? But there have also been times where I thought, oh gosh, I think it can be fixed. I don't want to make them feel sad,
Right.
And then be like, no, I think it'll be okay. But now I think I'm so much more prone to be like, I might.
I think a good response to that, because I've had that come up, is if this feels stressful to you, with the knowledge that you have, if this feels like too much, if this feels unsteady for you, I absolutely want you to find somewhere where you feel secure and steady in your work.
Yes.
I absolutely want you to. And I will support you 100% in finding that. There are times where you can't give the answer. You can't say, hell yeah, go look for another job. But what I always say is, if you're feeling that way, you're feeling that way for a reason, and that's okay. And I want you to move forward with what you think is best for you.
And I think I have always been the best version of myself and the best leader when I have my allegiance to the people around me and to the mission, not to the organization, the funder, the CEO, things like that. I think too, really good leaders and leaders that lead with their heart forward and their ethics forward and their morals forward are always going to be more attuned to the needs and success and happiness of the people around them and to the mission, not the organization. When I think about leaders that I feel really failed their teams in times of chaos, or in times of transition, is when they almost were like fanatically obsessed with the organization, right? Or like the leader of the organization, to the detriment of their people, of their clients, of the thing they were trying to achieve. I always think very carefully if it feels like my allegiance to some sort of structure is superseding my allegiance to people.
What you see with me is what you get, right? I really am not a good liar, so I'm not going to blatantly tell you a lie. So if you come and ask me a question that I can't answer, I'm going to tell you I can't answer that question. I'm not going to double down and tell you a lie. That is a place in leadership that we have to embrace. Because if somebody's coming and asking you a pointed question and they want that answer and you can't give it to them, then now they have their answer.
Exactly.
That is a kind way to move forward. Because in times of chaos, regardless of if it's a fleeting chaos, it's something that you're just going to have to work through and move through, or if it's a finalization of chaos, you want people to trust you.
Yes.
And you want to hold on to your own personal and professional integrity.
Yes.
And the second that you let go of that in order to double down on something that you know is not true, you've let all that go. And those people will remember that, regardless if you're in the position you're in now or you're somewhere else.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that because the vast majority of leaders are in some sort of mid-level management. The vast majority of leaders have people they are leading and they are answering to people above them, which is not always the most fun place to be. And sometimes those of us in that mid-level space, I know I have been, I am being asked to do something likely to protect the people above me, right? Or to protect the organization as a whole, that to me feels like it's at the expense of the people I'm leading or of the clients or mission we are serving. And I've been asked to do this in organizations. I've been asked to do this on boards that I'm a part of, in coalitions that I'm a part of. And that is a really tough space to be. And there's just a lot to navigate there. And I think each situation is different and nuanced. But I just want to honor how hard that can be, and having to ask ourselves questions. How willing are we to jeopardize this position, right? How willing am I to be called into the CEO's office and get yelled at for this? What does that look like for me? Because that's hard. But what I always consider is what you were just saying, is my professional reputation, right? Whether I have this job or not, Whether I am on this board or not, right?
Yeah.
Whether I'm leading this coalition of advocates or not, I am still Jill Bucaro, a social worker with a career, with a set of values and morals. I exist as that person outside of these organizations as well.
Right.
And I think I've gotten so much better over time of thinking about my own personal credibility, professionalism, morals, ethics, just as me.
Right. And that's just from a leadership standpoint. It's important that everyone has their own set of core values, their own integrity that they're willing to uphold. But as leaders, when we do that, we model that for everyone else that we're leading. And that makes a really strong and great workforce because everyone is going to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing to write into a policy. That's a really hard thing to write into your employee handbook, that everybody is going to hold to this integrity.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's gray. But if you're modeling it for other people, they're going to feel more comfortable to do it. If you're not modeling it, and you aren't trustworthy, first off, they're not going to trust you. And second off, they're not going to feel real motivated to be trustworthy either.
I think that's exactly right. Because what you're showing to them is it is more important to push the notion that the emperor is wearing clothes. It is more important to toe the party line. It is more important to try to make everybody happy and comfortable than to do what's right. And then you're going to have a lot of people that are, these are the things that we need to prioritize in the work that we do. And I don't want a bunch of people that are more interested in politicking and telling me what I want to hear working for me. I don't.
Yeah. And I think too, you're talking about mid-level management and more upper-level executive management, and we've both been in those types of roles. It really depends on the organization you're in and the leadership structure as to how you are going to experience those levels of leadership.
For sure.
I think that, and I'm using air quotes, the higher up your leadership role is, the more you're having to make these calls where you're having to discern, do I share this? Do I not share this? What am I going to take care of? You are in spaces where you have information that you can't fully give to your team and it wears on you. It's stressful. You sometimes question, am I lying? Am I being truthful? Am I doing the best that I can do? And I think what I've learned is that I have to pause and say, is it compassionate and loving for me to share this information? Or is it more compassionate for me with my skill set and my role in this organization to handle this and then share what is actually manageable to the people on my team?
For sure.
And that's where I always have to stop, because otherwise I sit there and you blame yourself and you aren't sure what to do, and you're like, well, here I am. I'm not holding to my own integrity. But really it comes down to, is this really a loving and compassionate thing to share or not?
Exactly. And what are my motivations for sharing it? Am I sharing it because I really think people need this information to take care of themselves and to do the work well? Am I sharing it because it feels so overwhelming? I just feel like I need to
vomit it on everyone else,
dump on somebody else. And I do definitely think that's an important distinction to make and requires some of the self-reflection.
Right.
When you are a leader, there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself. And we've said this in other podcasts, that when you take on a leadership role, to me, you have even more, it's almost like you have this mandate that you have to do your own work.
Yeah.
Because you have now put yourself in a position where you are bleeding out on everyone else if you're not. It's the same thing, I think, when you become a parent. If you are going to have children, then you have to be committed to doing the work, because otherwise all of that work that hasn't been done is going to bleed out on your kids. Right now at my work, I do not lead anybody. I do not supervise anybody for the first time in a very long time, probably 7 or 8 years, and it feels good because some of that pressure is gone. I just wake up and I do what's best for me and my clients. But when you are a leader, you have to be committed to introspection. You have to be committed to being reflective, to thinking about your own biases, your own fears, all of the baggage you're carrying into this interaction. You have to be committed to doing that. All of us have had leaders who are not committed to doing that, and we know how hard that is. Who they let their own shit just completely mess up everyone around them and detract from the mission and detract from so many things. And so I do think if you are somebody who is considering a leadership role, who is new in a leadership role, who is maybe wondering why this feels so difficult, right? Or why managing feels so hard, I think you have to ask yourself, am I doing the work that I need to do to be able to really approach these hard things with a clear mind and pure intentions and a pure heart?
And to not take a leadership role because you want to control everything. Because when we move up in organizations or just in roles, when you start off and you're the direct care worker or you're the frontline person, you have all kinds of ideas about how leadership should be.
Oh my gosh.
And you're like, this person would just do this, and if this person would just do this, and these people should have been fired, and these people should have been this, and you've got a lot of ideas. And not to say that any of those are wrong, because you may have some really great ideas about what could be from a leadership standpoint, right?
Yep.
But then you step into a leadership role and you realize that it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be. And also that thought of controlling isn't going to work.
No, there's way more surrender and leaning in to the unknown in leadership than there is as a frontline worker. Because when you are managing your own work product, whatever that is, there is a fair amount of control. Certainly there's external factors, right? Especially when you work with people, sure. You don't have a ton of control. But if you think becoming a leader is going to give you more control, then you're crazy.
What you're going to be able to control as a leader is setting up the guardrails for your team. That's what you control. You're not going to control your team. You're not going to control their performance or what they're going to do or how they're going to act. You have control over setting up the guardrail, holding the space, and holding to the guardrails that you put into place.
Exactly. You have,
and that's hard because that's not the same thing as being a dictator.
That's why dictators never last.
Right.
In all of
And nobody likes that, right? Nobody wants to be talked to like that.
No.
And those are the leaders that their entire team leaves.
Their entire team leaves. They're hysterical and upset every day.
They can't regulate themselves. They can't make decisions for themselves because they're looking to this other person who is leading by fear to tell them what to do. They're willing to stick around because for some reason their trauma is attracted to that.
Sure.
They are never going to progress because they're waiting for you to tell them so that they don't get in trouble.
Exactly. I do think that is so true. If you love control, then leadership is not for you.
Then work that out yourself. Work out why don't you have control in your own life? Because a lot of times that's what it is when people want to control other people in other situations. It's because they don't feel like they have control of themselves or in their own life. So let that be a mirror for you. Let that be an opportunity to do your own work. And once you learn, I don't even want to call it self-control because we don't have the level of control ever that we think we have, right?
Or that we want.
But the self-realization, you'll then understand, how do I lead other people?
Yes.
Because you can lead yourself.
That's what I was thinking when we started this line of thought. When you're a leader, you can control the exact same things that you could control before, which is you. Your responses, how you're going to respond when somebody oversteps a boundary, when somebody does something that you don't think that they should do. That's all that you have control over because that's all we have control over in life, whether it's work, family, friendships.
You have this perceived influence.
Sure.
Different leadership roles will give you, to some degree, is this perceived influence over other people. And in a workplace, in that contained culture, that contained space, you do have more influence because you have influence over the rules and the programming. Like I said, the guardrails. You have influence over the guardrails. You have influence over the external of the container.
Sure.
But you don't have control. And when you can release that and just realize that what you really have is influence, that is a whole different level of leadership. That is a whole different level of understanding. And your leadership skills will become more refined and feel better once you realize that really what you have is influence.
To bring it back unpack as we wrap up, living in that space of influence is what allows you to lead heart first, values and morals first, to be able to make these determinations about what information to share and when to share it, and to give people clarity and insight, because you've relinquished the idea of control, right? It's like what we talk about all the time. You've let go of your attachment to how this will all play out, and you're able to really step fully in to your values and morals and be like, here is the information I think everybody needs to know. Here are the hard things we are dealing with. Let me hold space, right? I think something that you articulated really well in this, so we can all make decisions about how we're going to move forward, both individually and as a collective.
And knowing in yourself that I showed up in my integrity, regardless of at the moment other people around me are like, I can't believe you didn't tell me that. They're upset, knowing that you don't have any control over their reaction.
Correct.
But what you did have control over was what you did. And if what you did was in alignment and was truthful and within your integrity, then it really doesn't matter what the reaction is. You're just going to hold space for the reaction.
Exactly.
And you are going to know that eventually that's going to work itself out.
No, I agree, because every time that I make a decision or move forward in alignment, I am okay with however the chips fall.
Right.
Yeah. Whew. You want to pull a card for us?
Sure. We're going to pull from the Soul Coaching Oracle cards. So as we do, let's take a deep breath together and release. And we will set the intention that you will receive exactly what you need from this podcast. Hopefully some new ways to look at leadership, whether you are a leader or you are part of a team where you have a leader. And that you'll receive exactly what you need from this card pull. Yeah.
What card did we pull, Amber?
We pulled the leadership card. On the leadership card in this deck, it is a lighthouse, and it is sitting up on a hill, and it looks as if there is a storm brewing, but you can see the light in the lighthouse. And I think this really speaks to what we have been talking about with leadership, and the fact that this light is an influence to get people to come to a safe space.
Yes.
But you're not swimming out into the stormy water to save people.
This is not a picture of the Coast Guard. This is a picture of a lighthouse. It's a beacon. It's a safe space. It's almost like a calling.
Well, you want to know what the affirmation says? It says, I am a beacon of radiance, support, and love.
I don't think we need to say anything else.
No, that's all.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Guided by Third Wheel, the podcast. We would be honored if you would like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, be well.